Good morning, students. In the previous class, we were discussing about Earth's structure and we discussed about the layers of the Earth in general. We saw Earth is made up of concentric layers. The innermost layer is the core, then the mantle, and the outermost layer is the crust. We saw the composition of crust is chemical composition. Crust is made up of lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Lithosphere is known as Sial or the continents, and ocean or the hydrosphere is known as the Sima. The blanket of air that surrounds Earth is known as the atmosphere. And I told you, Sial floats on Sima. Otherwise, continents floats on ocean floor. Today, we are going to see about the core or the innermost layer of the Earth. You know, based on the chemical composition, Earth's interior is divided into three layers: core, mantle, and the crust. And yesterday, as I told you earlier, we saw about the crust. Now let us see about core. It is the most inaccessible part lying at the center of the Earth. Cannot reach there, inaccessible part. Secondly, the core is the densest part of the Earth. Density is very high. Again, this core is divided into outer and inner core. Outer core, inner core. Now, the entire core is about 7,000 kilometers in diameter. How much is it? 7,000 kilometers in diameter. Now, the temperature ranges from about 4,400 degrees Celsius to about 6,000 degrees Celsius. That is the temperature of the core. It is generally believed that the core is composed of iron and nickel. Yesterday we have discussed about it. The core is made up of iron and nickel, which is responsible for Earth magnetism. And because of its high density, and since it is made up of iron and nickel, it is in solid form. The solid state of the inner core is due to high density and pressure, which have compressed the molten rock material. The earthquake waves, S-waves disappear in the outer core. We suggest it is in a molten state. Outer core in a molten state. You have now just go through the diagrams that is given. Now the second layer or the middle layer, that is called the mantle. This layer lies below the crust. The subset upper, the first layer, what is it? Crust, then mantle, then the core. Yesterday we saw about the crust. I will be telling about it detail tomorrow. The second layer is mantle. Just now I told about the crust, the innermost layer, the third layer. So now let us see the second layer or the middle layer. That is mantle. But speciality, its average thickness is 2,900 kilometers and makes up 84% of the Earth's total volume. Total Earth's volume out of 100, 84% of the Earth's volume is made up of mantle. Now, this mantle is divided into two parts, upper mantle and lower mantle. After crest comes the mantle. This mantle is divided into upper mantle and lower mantle. Upper mantle begins just after the crest, and lower mantle begins just after the upper mantle. Now you see, the upper mantle extends from the Moho discontinuity to a depth of 700 kilometer. Now you may be doubting what do you mean by Moho discontinuity. Moho discontinuity, what is it? Moho is nothing. Moho is a Yugoslavian scientist who discovered this discontinuity. This discontinuity between crest and mantle was discovered by a Yugoslavian scientist, and that is why his name is given, nothing else. What is it? When the crest ends, the other layer starts. That is the mantle, and this mantle is divided into two parts, upper mantle and the lower mantle. Just after the crest comes the upper mantle. Clear, no? The upper mantle extends from the Moho discontinuity to a depth of 700 km only. It is cooler and made up of solid rocks. It is cooler and made up of solid rock. Because in a way you can say that it is a continuation of the crust. The lower mantle, now see lower mantle extends from 700 to 2900 kilometer. Clear, no? Beginning I told you, average thickness is 2900 kilometer. So after crest, 700 kilometer is upper mantle, and from 700 kilometer to 2900 kilometer it is lower mantle. Now what is speciality lower mantle? Lower mantle is hotter and denser than the upper mantle. Denser, at the same time hotter. At the depth of around 100 to 410 kilometer. So at the depth of around 100 to 410 kilometer, mantle is partially molten, neither liquid nor solid, partially molten, and it is known as asthenosphere. Just see the diagram. It is known as asthenosphere. Lower mantle is solid due to high pressure. See, I told you, crust is solid, where we live, and the mantle and the core. Core is solid. Why? Because of high pressure and density. It is made up of nickel and iron. Therefore, it is solid. And this lower mantle is also in a solid state because of high density. Lower mantle is hotter and denser than the upper mantle. Now, what is it? Where it is liquid shape at the depth of around 100 to 410 kilometer. This upper mantle, no? At the depth of around 100 to 410 kilometer, the mantle is partially molten and is known as asthenosphere. As the pressure increases towards the interior of the earth, the density also increases. Now, the temperature varies between about 1000 degrees Celsius to around 3700 degrees Celsius. Now, I told you what is the Moho discontinuity. What is Moho? Moho is a Yugoslavian scientist who discovered this discontinuity. Crust ends and mantle, crust ends and the mantle starts. The ending and starting, that's a discontinuity. What is discontinuing? Crust ends and mantle starts. This is called discontinuity. Clear, no? That discontinuity was discovered by Moho, a Yugoslavian scientist. That is the reason it is given the name Moho discontinuity. Now there is another discontinuity, Gutenberg discontinuity. Again, who is Gutenberg? Gutenberg is another scientist who discovered the discontinuity. What did he discover? What discontinues? Mantle is getting over and core begins. Core begins when the mantle gets over. The getting over the mantle and the beginning of core is known as the Gutenberg discontinuity. One discontinues and another continues, another begins, another stage begins. That is called Gutenberg discontinuity. The boundary between the mantle and the core. In other words, you can say the mantle core interface is known as the Gutenberg discontinuity. It begins at a depth of 2800 kilometer. So already I told you the depth of mantle is 2900. So when it reaches almost 2800 kilometer below, we can see the characteristics of core. Here there is an abrupt change in the seismic waves or earthquake waves. Here there is an abrupt change in the seismic waves that travel through the earth. Primary waves, of course, they reach the surface of the earth. Again, you see the primary waves decreases in velocity while secondary waves disappear. Why secondary waves disappear? Why secondary waves disappear? Secondary waves disappear because 100 to 410 kilometer. The mantle is in a molten state. That state is known as asthenosphere, liquid state. Through this liquid state, yes waves. Otherwise, secondary waves do not travel. That is the reason secondary waves disappear. They do not reach the surface of the earth. That I told you in the beginning. It is denser probably due to the great percentage of iron. And I told you in the beginning, the core is made up of iron and nickel. Core is probably denser and in a solid state because it is made up of iron and nickel. And this nickel and iron gives, what does it give? This nickel and iron gives magnetism. That is why whatever we throw up, anything that goes up comes down. You throw a bolt upside, what happens? It falls down. Why it falls down? There the drags. Gravitational force of the earth pulls everything, and this gravitational force or the magnetic power of the earth is because of the composition of or is because of the core, which is made up of iron and nickel. So tomorrow, next video we will see about crust or the lithosphere in detail. So thank you, students.